second person is gonna be 245.
Oh, you're just jumping into it. 245.
Thank you, bro. Oh.
Wow, guys. As you guys know, your boy has made it to the island, and now I'm officially in the top 60. I mean, let's think about this real quick. We started with 1,000 people, and if you do the math, the odds to make it to the top 60 are 6%. And if you count the 2,000 people we started with in episode 0 in Vegas, the odds are 3%. So again, as you guys can see, the odds were definitely not in my favor to make it here. But I'm just extremely blessed to make it to this point, and I literally give all the credit to God. But anyways, I'm gonna be covering a little bit of everything that happened in episode 4 in this video, including the backstory of why I even got picked by Misha, because it doesn't really show it in the show. My thoughts on the other games that were played to get to the island because I didn't have the chance to play them, why I decided not to compete for the island, and just much, much more. So sit back, relax, and let's get into it. All right, so let's go all the way back to the morning after the cubes. And like I said in the last video, pretty much everybody was still sad from that last game because again, we had to sacrifice our friends just to get here. But again, it's the next morning, and while I was still sad about having to lose Grant, at the end of the day, I was just trying to focus on what this next challenge was gonna be. Because again, we're at the top 148, and I currently have a 1 in 148 chance to win $5 million. Like, when am I ever gonna have that chance again? And also, I know at this point in the games, something big had to be coming up. And also, one thing I didn't mention in my previous videos was throughout my time in the city, there were billboards in the city that would give clues to the upcoming challenges. For example, there was one on the platforms, there's one about the tower, and the one that always kept catching my eye was Beast Island, where it had Jimmy on the jet skis. And I knew at some point in this competition, the island has to come into play. And whenever it does, I've got to make sure that I go. So now back to the morning. And as you guys know, Jimmy brought out a present, and long story short, one of the brothers ran out for it, and inside was an island ticket. And let me tell you guys, whenever I saw it was a ticket to the island, my adrenaline literally went through the roof. I mean, this is one of the main reasons why I came here to go to the island. I mean, think about it. It's a $1.8 million island, and that's just a once in a lifetime opportunity. And if I don't get a chance to go and experience it, I will never forgive myself. So then, as you guys know, the next game was a scavenger hunt where Jimmy said he hit a random ticket somewhere in the city. And before I get into this challenge, since most of you guys already know what happened, let me give you guys a little story of what I did right before this challenge. So right before this game started, I went up to Misha and I was like, look, bro, if I find that ticket, you're going to be like my number 1 or 2 pick. And I 100% got you. And let me give you guys a little breakdown on me and Misha's relationship. Now, I had first met Misha in the hotel way before Beast game started. And I got talking to him, and we didn't hit it off immediately, but I could tell he was a cool dude. And he told me how he was in MrBeast's Every Country video where he was Russia. And we just hit it off a little bit, but not to the point where I consider us friends. But then once we get to the platforms, what do you know? Misha's on my row, and we just became better and better friends there, and we started talking more, and he actually helped me out really good in the blocks game because my tower was way crooked, and he kind of guided me through how to make it better. And again, we just talked on the platforms and we became better friends there. So now fast forward to whenever we first got to the city and we were in the same cabin. And again, it was like every day we just hit it off and became better and better friends. So by the time this competition started, Misha was probably one of my better friends in the competition, probably right behind Rob. So again, right before this competition started, I literally went up to Misha and I was like, bro, listen, if I find that ticket, you're gonna be one of my number 1 or 2 picks. And I 100% got you and have your back. So then the challenge starts, and as you guys know, literally everybody took off, including myself. Like, I don't think I've ever ran that fast in my entire life. Like, I literally sprinted out of there so fast, and I was literally flipping over everything, flipping over plants, pillows, doing everything in my power to find that ticket. And I was just making a whole mess of the city. And as you guys know in the show, everybody else was doing the same. I mean, you literally had a dude run into a chessboard. And again, as you guys know, literally everybody was going crazy in the city and making a mess just to find that ticket. So again, I'm looking and looking, and all of a sudden I hear MrBeast say, somebody found it. and I turn around, and what do you know? Misha had found the ticket. And in this moment, it just felt like I was living in a dream. I mean, it felt like God was just looking after me, and it just felt like fate that he found that ticket. I mean, there was just no way. I had literally just told this dude that I had his back and that I was gonna pick him, and then literally moments later, he's the one out of hundreds of people that find the ticket. Like, it was literally like a scene out of a movie. So then, as you guys know, Misha goes up there with MrBeast and from the helicopter and gets to pick the 5 people who get to go with him. And as you guys know, he picks my boy Michael, and then right after, he picks me. And here's the clip again for you guys that didn't see it.
Second person is gonna be 245.
Oh, he's just jumping into it. 245.
Thank you, bro. Oh,
Dang, man, like watching that back on TV, I literally got chills. Like, it just didn't feel real. And again, you guys see me hugging him, and I'm just extremely grateful of Misha. And I've told him this many times, like, he's a brother for life. He's the GOAT. He's the reason why I'm going to the island, and I literally give him all the credit. And I'm so grateful, thankful, and appreciative of him just for picking me. And again, we become better and better friends. So I knew in that moment I had a chance of him picking me. And whenever he picked me, he literally said the words, "You said you got me, so I got you." And again, in that moment, whenever he said that to me, I just got chills. Like, it was just such a beautiful moment. But again, as you guys know, he picks me, then he picks my boy Matt, then Dino, Papa Dino from the towers, who 100% deserves it. I mean, he turned down $1 million. He 100% deserves to get on this helicopter. And then for the last pick, he picks JC, who's just a great person, a great guy. And now that I think about it, everybody on that helicopter with me are just great people and are very down to earth. And it was just a great group to go to the island with. Now, one thing I just feel like I have to comment on is the fact that the show was not lying whenever people were just swarming Misha as soon as he found that ticket, asking him to pick him. And I just remember sitting there in that moment like, guys, you've literally never talked to this man your whole entire time in this city, and you really think he's gonna pick you? Like, what are you doing? Like, you've literally never talked to him a day in your life. But anyways, enough of that rant. Back to the moment. Again, Misha picks me and the rest of my helicopter mates, and here's a couple pictures of us celebrating in that moment. Again, it was just a surreal moment of knowing you're going to the top 60, going to the island, and it was just a great moment. But now, let's talk about the rest of the games that the other people had to play in order to get a ticket to the island. Now, before I get into it, let me say, since I left so early, I had only heard stories about what happened in these games. Because again, since I left so early, I had no idea what happened in these games, and I just had to rely on word of mouth on what actually happened. But anyways, let's get into the very first game, which was the ball game. And let me tell you, I feel like this one, if you won it, you 100% earned that island ticket. Because again, this one was just extremely hard. Like, having to drop your ball right before 10 minutes and risking being eliminated if you go over is a scary feeling. And again, you're blindfolded, so you have to count in your head and determine whether or not you're close to 10 minutes to drop that ball. And whether or not I feel like I would have passed this is a toss-up. Because I mean, I feel like I am a good counter, but again, in that moment, I know it had to be stressful, and knowing that you're gonna be eliminated if you go over is a scary feeling. So again, I have no idea what I would have done. But again, the people who got the ticket from this challenge, I 100% respect, and they 100% deserve that ticket. Because again, this was a tough one. And one thing that was interesting to me is Lyric, one of the guys who got a ticket. I don't know if you guys have seen this video, but he explains in a video on Instagram that he had a song in his head that he sung that he knew was exactly 5 minutes long every time he sung it. So he literally sung that song 2 times in his head, and right before he finished it for the second time, he dropped it, and what do you know? It was right, and he got tickets to the island.
I've had a lot of questions asking how I was able to keep time so well. I had actually prepared for this challenge well before the games even started. I had 2 songs in my head that when I sang them back to back, they were 5 minutes. So I just sang them both twice, 10-minute mark. No luck involved. It was crazy.
I mean, man, I just felt like that was a crazy strategy, and the fact that it worked and he was able to sing that song in his head and drop it right before 10 minutes is crazy. So again, this whole game in general was crazy to watch. And as far as my thoughts on what Daffne did by counting out loud to mess people up, at the end of the day, I know some people are going to hate her for doing that and are going to say she was just being a straight jerk, but at the end of the day, this is a competition and we're competing for $5 million. And like I said in the last video, sometimes you got to do what you got to do to better your odds. So again, looking from a straight competitor's mindset, you really can't blame her or hate on her for doing what she did. But again, this is my opinion, and I'm curious on what you guys think of that situation. So comment down below what you guys think of what Daffne did. Do you think it was wrong, or do you think it was strategic? Let me know down in the comments. But anyways, now let's get into the coin game, where there was a lot of controversy. So I got a lot to talk about. So as you guys know, almost everybody gave their tokens to Jeremy, and I know a lot of people have mixed opinions on Jeremy. I mean, you can see it in the show. People are saying that he's weird, that they're creeped out by him, that he's using religion just to give him an edge in the game. And again, there's just a lot of hate and controversy going on around him. Now, I know everybody's entitled to their own opinions, and I know a lot of people there as contestants in the show have mixed opinions on Jeremy, but let me tell you guys my experience and what I think on Jeremy as a whole as I met him in the city. Now, I didn't really know Jeremy too well during my first 2 days in the city, but one day during our off time, Jeremy held a huge Bible study for anybody who wanted to go in Beast City, and obviously I attended because I'm a Christian, man of God, so I attended, and just hearing his words, hearing his passion for the word, his passion for the Lord, and I just remember thinking, dang, this is someone I probably want to hang out with. I mean, I could just tell he was a great guy and was very passionate about his faith. So after that, I got to know him better, and I can truly say, being 100% honest, he's not a cult leader. He's not a whatever you want to say from the show. He's not sexist. He's none of that. He's a great man, a man of God, and an amazing person to hang out with. And as far as him not picking women and people being mad about that, at the end of the day, he can only pick 5 people to go with him. So again, that's an extremely hard position to be in. And at the end of the day, he did keep his word by picking Daffne. And I know a lot of people are going to be saying why he picked her, and that's a terrible pick. I mean, she had just sabotaged the game before. But again, Jeremy's a great person, a great man, and at the end of the day, like Jesus did, he forgave the wicked, he forgave the people that might have not deserved it, and in that moment, Daffne might have not deserved it, but at the end of the day, Jeremy's a kind person and a very forgiving person. So again, that's why I picked her, and again, I know a lot of people are hating on him for picking her out of all people, but again, he's very forgiving and he did what he had to do. But anyways, that's my opinion on Jeremy, and again, he's a great guy, and whenever we've hung out, we're great friends, and I really enjoy hanging around him, and he's an amazing person. But if you want to hear his whole story and hear him explain why he did what he did, go check out his new video right here. It's a great watch, and again, I highly recommend you go check it out if you want to hear his story. Now, let's get to the next game, which was the balancing game, and I feel like this one was the one where you wanted to win because, I mean, 3 helicopters got to go. So if I was in this game at this moment, this will be the game I would go all out to try and win because, again, 3 helicopters are getting to go. So I would have gone all out. And as you guys saw, the strategy was just for that one person in the front of the line to balance it the whole time. Because again, the wind was so brutal in the city during that day. And honestly, the wind was brutal throughout my whole time during Beast City. So again, I can't imagine what they were going through. But anyways, again, the whole strategy for that game, as you guys saw, was to not pass it back and for that front person just to carry and balance it for the whole time. And as you guys saw, my boy Akira, Jamal, they used that strategy, and that's the reason why they won. And again, I obviously can't determine whether or not I would have won that challenge for my team because at the end of the day, I don't practice balancing, and I for sure don't practice balancing in that stressful of an environment. But again, I just feel like that would have been the game where I would have been like, hey, this is the game I gotta win, and I gotta do whatever it takes to make sure that I win and make sure that my team advances. But anyways, let me know down in the comments, would you guys have passed that challenge? Now, for this next game, the helicopter game, where again, I'm not going to explain the rules because you guys already know. But again, this will be another game where I would just do everything in my power to win. Because I mean, it's individual, and at this point, there's just not too many helicopters left. So if I was in this game, I would have been extremely vocal. I would have been like, hey, 245s stepping on. And as soon as I step on, I literally would have started stomping on the helicopter pad to let everybody know that, hey, I'm on it. And unless you want to go home with me, don't step on it. And that's exactly what Natalie did in the moment. She took a risk. She was like, hey, I'm stepping on it. And if anybody else wants to, that's cool. We can all go home together. So she took the risk. And at the end of the day, it paid off. And it was a great strategy. So again, that was another game where I would have stepped up, been vocal, and would have really shot my shot at getting that ticket. Now, for this next game, obviously there was a bribe where you could climb one tower to continue competing or climb the other tower and be eliminated, but get a payout. And if I'm being honest, if I was there in that moment, it would have been hard for me because at the end of the day, I don't want to be eliminated with no money. But the competitor side of me wants to do whatever it takes to get on that island and win that 5 million. So honestly, it would have been a toss up for me, but I feel like I would have kept on competing and went on to that next challenge. And as far as how I would have done in this challenge, I honestly have no idea. Like, that tower is so high up, and having to throw your ball from way up there with the wind is not an easy task. And I wouldn't have been surprised if I literally would have shanked my shot. Like, I probably would have been in Cash's video of him roasting people shanking their shot. And also, speaking of Cash Nasty, shout out Cash, man. He shouted your boy out in his video, so I'll play the clip right here.
He ain't capping. It's him. It's him. Yo. Shout out to Grayson Lewis.
I mean, Cash Nasty is one of my favorite YouTubers, so whenever I saw he shouted me out, it was just an incredible moment. But anyways, back to this challenge, and I really don't know how I would have done, but I honestly would have ranked this challenge right behind the counting challenge of difficulty. And again, I just really think the winner of this challenge just 100% deserved it. And again, I just feel like this challenge was one of the ones that required a ton of skill. But anyways, now let's get to the final game, which was the platform game. And let me tell you, this game, from what I saw on the show, looks so intense to be there in that moment. Because I mean, think about it. This is your last shot to get a ticket on the helicopter. And not only that, you've been paired up with a group of 6 that you think that you'll go on the helicopter with if you win, just to find out that now only one of you can go, and you just got to decide in that group which one you're going to give all your coins to and allow to go on the helicopter. And again, if I was there, I don't know what I would have done. Like, again, I more than likely would have teamed up with my friends, because Rob, unfortunately, he was still there. He hadn't got a ticket to the island, and he was paired up with a group. And at the end of the day, I don't know what I would have done to make sure that I go. But again, it would have been a super hard decision, and more than likely, I would just have to play a fair game to decide who should go, which is exactly what most groups did, including Rob's group. And unfortunately, whenever Rob's group played, he didn't win it. And I just hate it for him, because again, I left so early, and I literally would have done everything in my power to make sure he gets on that island. And again, I just can't imagine what he was feeling in that moment. So now I'm curious again, what would you guys have done in your group to decide which one of you should go in advance to the island? Let me know down in the comments below. But anyways, this was the last game to get a helicopter ticket, and as you guys saw in the show, it was just an extremely sad moment seeing everybody who didn't make it just leave the city knowing they were literally one challenge away from going to the island. And I just can't imagine what those people were thinking and feeling in that moment. But anyways, now let's talk about my experience after I got picked. And obviously, as you guys know, I got in a helicopter and we took off. And let me guys tell you, this was my very first time being in a helicopter. So I was so excited, man, being on the headset, talking. I mean, it was like a dream come true. And it was just so cool flying overhead and just seeing everything around you as you knew you were going to the island. And whenever we landed and we went to the hotel to wait on the rest of the people who made it to the island, I remember when I first walked down in the hotel and first saw everybody who made it to the island, I remember thinking like, dang, I really don't know these people. And I remember looking around looking for Rob, and in that moment when I realized Rob didn't make it, my heart literally sunk. Like, again, he was my last day one best friend, and at the end of the day, besides maybe Misha and like 2 other people, I really had nobody that I really felt like I could depend on. But anyways, again, I'm looking everybody over, and I realized in my mind that I don't know 90% of these people, and I don't even know their names. So in that moment in the hotel waiting to go to the island, we just all bonded, played games, and it was just such a beautiful moment getting to know everybody. And I can just truly say everybody in the top 60 were amazing people, and I just couldn't have asked for a better group to go to the island with. And we just became super close right there in the hotel, and getting to meet everybody, getting to learn their names was just an amazing thing. And again, they were all just great people. So now it's the next morning and we fly from Toronto to Panama. And let me tell you, that was probably the best flight I've ever been on. Like, sitting there knowing that you're in the top 60 going to Panama to a $1.8 million island was just an incredible feeling. And just the energy on that plane was crazy. And again, getting to know everybody during that flight just made it 10 times better. But then before I knew it, we landed in Panama, and let me tell you, Canada was technically my very first country that I had visited. But I honestly consider Panama to be my very first country, because in that moment, whenever I first stepped off the plane, that was the very first time in my life that I was like, dang, I can really tell I'm not in the US no more. Like, the scenery in Panama was unreal. Like, seeing the Panama Canal, seeing the huge city of Panama City, like the sightseeing was crazy. And I just really wish I would have had my phone to show you guys all the amazing things that I saw. But anyways, eventually we drove through Panama City and we made it to the hotel. And let me tell you, that was one of the nicest hotels I've ever stayed in. Like, the room I got to stay in was top notch. Like, the bathtub I had was literally like a pool, and everything was just so nice. And the best part about it was the scenery outside the balcony as you'd walk out and all you would see is the amazing view of the whole entire Panama City with the ocean right beside you. And it was just one of the most beautiful sights I've ever seen. And again, I just really wish I could have taken some pictures to show you guys how amazing that view was. But anyways, it was now the next morning and we got on a little charter boat to go to the island, and it was about a 3 or 4 hour boat ride to the island. But honestly, it was totally worth it because I mean, the whole time I was just looking out the window, just in awe of everything. Like I literally saw dolphins, whales jumping out of the water on the way to the island, and it was just one of the coolest experiences I've ever seen. But then, before you knew it, we made it to the island, and as you guys know, Jimmy gave us the option on whether or not we could compete for the island, and as you guys know, I ultimately decided not to compete for it. And at the end of the day, it was a very hard decision for me because I really felt like I was one of the more athletic people there, and whatever the challenge was, I felt like I'd have a great shot at winning. But in the back of my mind, I knew I came here to win the $5 million. And while it would be great to have a $1.8 million island, at the end of the day, that's not why I came here. So again, I decided not to compete and I went to the other island to enjoy a vacation. But as you guys know, Misha decided to compete for the island, and I just want you guys to root for him and cheer him on as he competes in episode 5, because again, he's the sole reason why I even made it to the island. So again, go show him some love, go root for him as he competes for this $1.8 million island. And again, I'm just so appreciative of him. I love him to death, and he's the sole reason why I'm in the top 60, and I literally give him all the credit. But anyways, that's my story of Beast Games episode 4. Your boy is in the top 60. Yes, sir. Let's go. And I'll see you guys next time.